Good, good. I didn't hear from Heather either way. Hopefully she'll be along shortly. So it's fine. It's after 5:30. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to call the March 23rd, 2021 Royal Oak Charter Review Committee to order. Let's go ahead and start with roll call, and remember to please state your full name and the city where you are calling in from. I'll go ahead and start. Rob Moore, calling in from Detroit.
Ryan Everett calling in from Royal Oak.
This is Charlene Douglas in Royal Oak.
Hi, it's Ron George in Troy.
Okay, and I believe that's everyone. I don't think staff has to. So, all right. Okay, let's go ahead and continue. We don't have a formal agenda this evening. Primarily what we're going to be focusing on is the proposed charter amendment language that written by Mark. First and foremost, Ms. Schwanger, do we have any public comment? Okay, do we have Carol?
I don't know if she may have just stepped out, but we can take public comment later.
Okay, let's do that. We'll defer that. I do not believe we have any minutes from the last meeting. I didn't see any. So if we don't,
Rob,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Deanna. Yeah.
Can we get you guys to approve the agenda for tonight, please?
Oh, okay. Okay, I will solicit a motion to approve our agenda, such as it is.
Also move.
Third.
Okay, moved and supported to approve agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. And do we have to do a roll call vote for this one as well? I can't remember.
Yes,
Okay.
you have to do a roll call for everything.
Okay. Oh, okay, I see. I vote yes. Rob Moore?
Ron George, yes.
Ryan Everett, yes.
Charlene Douglas, yes.
Okay, the agenda is approved, and we will defer the February minutes until our next meeting. If that doesn't present any issues. All right. We will come back to public comment when Carol is ready, if we have any public comment this evening. But if not, we will go ahead and proceed into the heart of our meeting here with the proposed amendment language that Mark has written. I assume everybody got that in the email this afternoon? Okay, good. I'm sorry, Char.
Yeah, Rob, I did get it this afternoon and I had about 15 minutes to look at it. I'm going to ask that in the future, when we have language to look at like this, we receive it at least several days in front and before the meeting, and that the link be included in the agenda. I mean, this is the people's business, and this is something that people would be interested in and should know before the meeting starts. Can we make sure that that happens, Deanna and Mark?
I can make sure that that happens. I apologize this time. In the last several weeks, I've been tied up with trial work, and it's just time consuming to be in trial. But yeah, I will bring it to you hopefully a week before the next meeting.
And perhaps Deanna could help us keep on top of that as we look at our calendars.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, duly noted. That's a good idea. All right, moving into the agenda. Mark, is there a particular one that you wanted to start off with here, or does it matter? Or
doesn't matter. I think the quickest ones would be the ones where maybe a decision might be quicker to make. While I was reviewing the last memorandum that I sent to the that was being prepared for the city commission from last year, and then I sent to you for the last meeting, there was one revision of the charter that I noticed that it called for the elimination of the public health officer. And even though the city hasn't had a public health officer in decades, I'm wondering if now is the time to put that before the people.
okay, yeah, I do recall that was among the agenda we discussed. I know it was, I believe there was language that would basically strike all those sections in Public 3 that had to do with public health, public safety, and I believe public welfare as well. So did you want to discuss that at all this evening, or?
Yeah, I'd like to discuss that this evening. Let me take a quick look at that memorandum and find out where it is. The way the commission works, the committee works, is that if they make recommendations, your body makes recommendations to the city commission, and this would strike a number of provisions out of Chapter 3, Section 11, Section 12. Both those mention public health department, Section 15 that mentions the mandatory appointment of a public health officer or city health officer. And then Section 32 in the same chapter that would, it describes the qualifications for the director of public health. If that provision was approved, it would go before the electorate, or if it was approved by the city commission, it would go before the electorate.
Okay, and I do recall that, I can't remember exactly when, but I do recall that we had approved ballot language stating all that to that effect. Would we need to do so again this evening, or?
No, you don't have to, but let me show you. Let me see if I can share the screen on this. Show you the language again. Apparently I can't share the screen right now. Carol, are you there? So no, I can't share the screen, but
I think Deanna is running the meeting. She may have the ability to grant you that permission, Mark. Deanna?
oh, okay.
Yeah, Mark, she might have to make you a host, Mark.
Yes.
If you could give me host or share screen ability.
Hold on one second. I'm working it out for you, Mark.
Thank you.
I had to solicit Carol's help, so it should be just a moment.
Okay, thank you. I believe Ms. Lewis is present.
Yes, she is. Hi, Heather.
Hi, and I apologize for being late, everybody. Sorry.
We just started.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
We haven't done anything yet, Heather.
I'm sorry, what?
So we haven't really done anything yet. You haven't
Oh,
missed
good.
anything.
We had a COVID thing at school, and I think I just was busy texting everybody, being like, what happened? So I got distracted. But thank you.
This is the portion of the memoranda that was completed last year. And you'll see that it talks about Chapter 3, form of government, Section 11. There are 6 mandatory departments that the city shall have. It strikes it 6 down to 5 and eliminates public health. Section 12. The public health director is like the department. It strikes out public health in Section 12, where like the Department of Law would report directly to the city commission. But if you're repealing it, take that section out. And then in Section 15, the city health officer is redacted. And then Section 32, which lists the criteria for the public health officer, those are struck out. That's the third of 4 proposals.
So we tried to eliminate this department, I don't know, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and the electorate wanted to keep it in place.
That's correct.
Yeah, because I don't know exactly when, but the public health offices that the city once did way back when have long since been outsourced to Oakland County. And I don't anticipate the local need for that again anytime soon. So assuming this goes on the ballot, this would obviously require just a little bit of education, obviously, to just, which we've typically done in years past. I mean, we put language out there, we put education, so.
So right now it's approved. If you want to send it forward to the city commission, it can remain as is. And you don't need to make another vote in the affirmative unless you want to vote to not recommend this provision for its inclusion in the November ballot.
Okay, I understand. Okay, how does everyone feel about this? Are we comfortable going forward with this, or?
Yes.
All
Yes.
right.
I'm sorry. I guess I thought this was a settled matter.
In what manner? It had been presented before the electorate some years ago, and the electorate turned it down. The CRC moved to bring it back to the, make a recommendation and bring it to the city commission for inclusion on a ballot before the public again.
Right, and I think we wanted to do that in 2020, but felt that the ballot was too full.
That's correct.
Right.
So, and what you're showing us here, Mark, has not changed since that time?
No, I'm just bringing this forward for further review because I think that you may want to reevaluate this in the light of the current pandemic, whether or not you want to bring this before the people while there's a pandemic going on.
So right now we've got as possible charter review items, the mayoral appointment and the charitable foundation. Are those the only three topics that are extant?
That need approval. The only ones that need approval are the mayoral vacancy and the support for the charitable works.
So there's I'm sorry to align this in my own mind. So there's a possibility that we could have one or two or three of the things we're talking about now on the November ballot.
Right now, what's approved is an acknowledgement.
Yeah.
The first proposal would be an acknowledgement of state law on elections. There was,
Right. I knew there was something else. Okay.
yeah, and then another one would allow, a very minor change would allow the assessor to designate an attendee to attend the March Board of Review. Right now, the charter specifically says that the director of assessing shall attend. It doesn't allow for any provisions for him to appoint someone to, or her to appoint somebody.
Okay, now thanks for the refresher. So those two proposed changes we as a committee have approved, and and the AG has informally blessed them?
Yes.
Okay. And it's reasonable to assume that the health officer thing will pass muster since that was blessed by the AG several years ago?
Well, yes, and again and again last year.
And again last year. Okay, good. So we've got three sets of languages, three changes that we know are pretty okay. And now we're just going to look at these other two, right?
That's correct.
I'm sorry, everybody, if I'm belaboring this, but
Oh, this is helpful.
No, it's been a while. Yeah, I mean, it's good that we're going over this. I mean, it's, to review this. I mean, yeah, that's what I had on my list too. Assuming that if we approve the two proposals this evening, we could have up to 5 amendments. Yes, I just want to make sure that it lines up with everyone else. So
right now you have two that are approved, one under reconsideration concerning the mayoral vacancy, and a new one for support of a nonprofit organization.
all right.
okay, so I'm going to suggest we hold those three that are where the language has been vetted aside, and then take a look at these two new possibilities, and either now or at our next meeting decide which of the 5 we want most to put on the ballot, because it seems like 5 is a big number to go on to any ballot.
I mean, historically, I mean, in city elections, we have done up to 5.
Okay.
Yes,
I mean,
we have
not-
successfully. I think like we've had time when all 5 passed.
We've had a really good record these last couple of years. It wasn't always the case. I'm certainly, and I'm not. This isn't to say that we have to have 5 amendments on the ballot necessarily. I'm just saying we could have up to 5. I mean, if we're going by historical records, but no, I have no issue with that. No.
All right, good. Well, I appreciate your historical knowledge on that, Rob, because I didn't realize that. So thanks. I'm sorry, I interrupted your flow of thought, Mark. Carry on.
No, it's your committee. So I guess let's go on to the next one on the agenda item, which is support for a nonprofit entity. And this is relatively very easy to do.
No, isn't the next, I'm sorry, I'm such a pest here. Isn't the next one on the agenda the Chapter 3, Section 9?
It can be if you want it to be. I
Well,
mean, that the chair left it to my discretion.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the order it's in on the agenda.
Yeah, let's do that one next.
You want to do the mayoral vacancies next, or the or the nonprofit next?
Chapter 3, Section 9 is next on the agenda. Let's do that one.
All right. All right. What was in the memorandum from last year? Just to go over briefly, is this? You can see my cursor is this section here. And what it would have done is clarified a little bit of train of appointment, or what would happen if the the office of the mayor was vacant. This proposal.
Excuse me, Mark, you're still
Yeah.
showing, I don't know if you intend to be showing that section. I mean, I have it on my other screen, but I think you're still showing the public health on the screen here.
Okay, I'm new to showing this stuff. And okay, I don't know how to get back to, oh, here we go. All right,
There you go.
there you go. So the section that's grayed out right now a little bit, that's what you had last month. And that's where Commissioner Douglas wanted some additional options. What that proposal would do is clarify what would happen if the mayor, if there's a vacancy in the office of the mayor. In this proposal, it would mandate that the mayor pro tem would become the mayor and hold the office until the end of the mayoral term and vacate the commission seat of the mayor pro tem. The other options that I drafted don't mention the mayor pro tem at all. In one case here, it would allow the city commission to fill the office of the mayor by, of course, anybody. But if they picked a serving city commissioner, that city commissioner would then become the mayor, and that seat would become vacated. And then the city commission could go forward and fill that vacancy. Another option is, excuse me jumping around on the screen, but this sharing screens is new to me, is this section here, version 3. It would allow the city commission to appoint anybody to fill the term of the mayor. If it picks a city commissioner to fill out the term of the mayor, those city commissioners that still have 2 or more years to serve, they would fill out the seat of the mayor and then would be able to return to their old seat and finish out their old terms. That would require that seat not be considered vacant, and the city commission would have to go forward with the 6-member commission. So those are kind of the 3 options here. This last one, version 4, is simply a different wording of version 2, where the person, if the city commissioner were appointed, the seat would become vacant. It's just a different wording.
So as a principal, are we generally more in favor of, rather than have the mayor pro tem be automatically appointed, that we prefer that the city commission appoints the mayor? Is that a general principle that we all are agreement in? That's the major change from the first version, right?
Yeah, that's basically it.
And that was based upon our discussions that the person who may be the pro tem may not actually have any desire to actually be the mayor, if I recall the conversation that we had or the discussion that we had at the last meeting.
That's true, but the position of mayor pro tem is a voluntary position.
Right.
Also selected by the city commission after every election.
So
In this
one
version-
question I have here, Mark, is in these cases where the city commission, I guess everything but version 1, there's no time limit, right?
That's correct.
So if the city commission, if some set of city commissioners wanted, I mean, I guess there's some kind of result of that. Like they could fail to or filibuster the appointing of a new city commissioner or of a new mayor, which is the core problem we were trying to solve at the beginning. Like there's nothing that says the mayor's seat will be filled under this approach. They could not be filled.
We've reviewed that. My office has reviewed that over the years, and there does not seem to be a really good mechanism to quote unquote mandate or force the elected officials to act. I mean, if they don't act, they don't act. I don't know where circuit court could mandate the city commission appoint someone to mayor. If they don't want to do it, I don't see what power there would be to what if there just aren't any candidates that the city commission wants to consider? So we've reviewed that. I think any mechanism to try and force the elected officials to make a decision is unworkable.
Yeah. So in contrast to version 1, which would not leave a seat open because there would be an automatic succession, the rest of this all faces the same question that I guess we have now, which is we could have an unfilled seat.
Correct.
And wasn't one of the other concerns, which I think is what version 3 goes after, is giving back that commission seat to the person who is appointed to mayor for the short term?
That's one possibility. It's never been clear in the charter because of the wording. What happens to that commission seat if someone is appointed mayor? Is it vacated? Can the person return to it? It's just never been specified. What the commission has been doing over the last 100 years is assuming that, and it's only happened twice, I believe. The commission assumes that seat is vacated, and that commission seat is vacated if that commissioner becomes mayor, and then they have the discretion to appoint someone to fill that seat and run at the next municipal election for whatever remainder of the term there is.
So one flavor that we didn't try here, but wouldn't be, at least be something we could imagine, would be a combination of 1 and, I don't know, 3, version 3, where you'd appoint the mayor pro tem would become mayor, but they would also get to have their seat back when they were no longer the mayor. Like that's also a possible variation here, right?
That's a different variation, yes. That's pretty much what happens in version 3, but it doesn't mandate, version 3 doesn't mandate that the mayor pro tem ascend to the mayor's seat.
And I may have missed this discussion in the last meeting. If so, I'm sorry. The concern about I'm the mayor pro tem. I don't want to be appointed to be the mayor. One of the reasons might be that I don't want to lose my seat. But if that's been resolved, is it as much of a worry, I guess, in that case, or would there be like, couldn't I say, well, I'll start there. Is there as much concern for a mayor pro tem if they know they get their seat back?
That's an item that's not a legal item. That's an item for people to decide if that's the place for them.
Commissioner, do you have, I think this was your concern, right?
Right, so let's say, I'm Mayor Pro Tem, and I have been in my office, I'm riffing here, okay, so
Yep.
sometimes I don't know what to think until the words come out of my mouth.
Okay.
I've been in office 2 years, I'm Mayor Pro Tem and the mayor leaves. If I lose my seat, then that means I have to run again for my comfy commission seat in 2 years. But that means I would have spent 2 years as mayor, so I would have been on the commission for 4 years. All right, so maybe that's not a bad, I'd have to run at that point anyway.
Right.
Where it would impact you is, let's say you were appointed mayor or became mayor because of an automatic provision, and you still had, let's say you're at the beginning of your term
Yeah,
and you served 2 years as mayor, but you still have 2 more years, you would have had 2 more years as city commissioner.
right.
Then you'd put this, so what I'm saying is if you combine version 1 with version 3, so you took this sentence, commissioner appointed to serve out the term of the office of mayor, but whose term of office on the city commission does not expire until 2 years after. That's the situation you described. You
Right,
could say to that mayor pro tem, okay, thank you for your stepping into this role. Now that you've served out the term of that mayor and a new one's been elected, you may return to your seat as a city commissioner and complete your term.
right. But that implies a 6-member commission for the duration.
Right.
Right.
That's a long time.
And that's a tough number.
Right.
Okay.
There,
And
go ahead.
go ahead.
There-
Okay. Oh my gosh. What I was
Go
going to
ahead,
say.
Heather. Go ahead,
Oh
Heather.
my gosh. We kept doing that. I think when we had the last conversation, some of the concern was, is this what the mayor pro tem signed up for? But it is what a mayor pro tem signs up for. And they choose it. And knowing that this is if we went through option 1 and we know that's what it is, when you decide to have that position, that's part of the deal. It's not like you're being blindsided. That's just another way to look at it. I'm not saying I have an opinion yet, but that's one way to look at it.
And that's true, because you could evaluate the situation and turn down pro tem.
Right.
So what happens in that case if that person were to turn down the mayor position as a mayor pro tem?
I don't think that's what we were
saying.
saying. Yeah. We were saying you don't have to be pro tem. It's
Got
not
it.
like the second highest vote getter is automatically pro tem.
Got it.
Yeah. But that's an interesting question that it did cross my mind what you brought up. What if someone says no?
Yeah. But yeah. If somebody's going after being the mayor pro tem, then I would think that they'd be okay with stepping in.
Right.
And maybe you'd only be inclined to become mayor pro tem if you were in your second 2 years or something like that. Because then, as you said, Char, there's no difference anyway. I was going to have to rerun anyway.
Right.
And it wouldn't be the worst idea, just assuming everyone, had even amount of experience. We'd rather probably, just as a policy, rather have a mayor pro tem that wasn't also completely brand new and become mayor in a hot minute. There could be reason for that too.
Yeah.
So does elsewhere in the charter, I guess it establishes that the commission will appoint a pro tem?
Yes, let me find it for you. I've got too many screens going here.
Shut a window.
You can continue on and other discussion while I look for this. Mistakenly closed the.
Yeah, so the 6-seat commission, that kind of, if we really don't like that, that kind of acts as version 3, because there's no way to keep somebody with safety unless you have unless you don't replace them. Once you replace them, they have no safety.
Right.
So, and nobody seems to like the 6-person commission for good reason. So version 3 is out for sure, right? There's no support for version 3.
I don't support it at this time.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
You know,
Okay, in, I think it's chapter 3, let me confirm that. Yep, chapter 3, section 7. States that the commission at its first regular meeting select a member of the commission, mayor pro tem, who during the absence or disability of the mayor shall perform his or her duties and shall act in the manner and state of the mayor, and shall during the time of such absence or disability exercise all the duties and possess all the powers of the mayor. That's what led to version 1.
Do you know, Mark, what if the commission desired to change the mayor pro tem, say a year later? Is there any provision for that anywhere?
I think they could change the mayor pro tem at their discretion. There's nothing else that nothing in here. The only implication is that the term will last at least that can last 2 years, but all they have to do is make at the first regular meeting, they shall pick a mayor pro tem. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think because there's no prohibition, I'd have to say yes, they could change the mayor pro tem subsequently to picking one at their first meeting.
So you could have a circumstance, for example, where the mayor tells the commission, I'm going to be moving. And I'm telling you before I announce my resignation, so that you can, as a body, choose a new mayor pro tem. So I'm going to give you the authority to see if you really want it to be Commissioner Douglas or you want it to be somebody else. I mean, that you could basically pre-plan. The commission could pre-plan that it's going to do the appointment of the new mayor just by organizing a little bit. So that like they're never locked in. It's just more of the surprising, like, oh my gosh, the mayor is incapacitated or leaves the country without notice or something like that. Then it's just an automatic situation there. But you're not forced to it in the first week of the term to say this will be the new mayor no matter what.
Is Commissioner Starr still on the meeting? Commissioner Douglas is still on the meeting?
I think we lost.
Let's see.
Like
Let's
we
see.
lost her.
I don't see her, Rob.
No, I don't either. Okay. No, yeah, apparently we lost her. Okay. Well, hopefully she comes back on. I'm not sure what happened there.
Oh, there she is. Commissioner, you back on?
yes, I am. Sorry, I got booted out of my computer. I'm now back on my phone.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
What did I miss?
I believe Mr. George was making a statement.
I said that one thing that's possible, even if we put this in place, is suppose that the mayor knew that they were going to move or something like that. They could tell the commission, like, hey, before I announce my resignation, I just want you to know that I'm planning to. And if you guys want to get together and decide who the next mayor should be, you should appoint a different mayor pro tem or whatever. There's, in other words, there's flexibility in the case where there's planning. And that's, at least if I think Mark's probably right, that at any time, the commission could appoint a new mayor pro tem. So the commission sort of has this power to appoint the next mayor if it's doing so in kind of an organized fashion. Where it kind of doesn't have it is if the mayor leaves by surprise or without planning, then our new provision would put whoever was the current pro tem in as the mayor. I just was kind of pointing that out, that it's not like it's the first week they decide no matter what happens, it's going to be this person will be pro tem. The pro tem could change.
Okay, guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm logged in on my computer so I can see the screen, but I'm using the audio on my phone.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so what are our thoughts on this? Is there a particular version that works best? Is there a particular one that we could settle on here? What is everyone's thoughts here?
I feel like I'm leaning towards version 1. I like Heather's thoughts on the mayor pro tem. You know, they want to be in that position anyways, so I feel like they would be the next best person to fill the seat.
I lean towards that as well.
I do too.
Yeah, while I was reluctant when this first came up, after discussion, that's why we have committee meetings, I do see the sense of it. And the truth is, if the mayor pro tem doesn't want to do it, they can resign as mayor pro tem, right?
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Right. Yeah, all things considered, I would lean in that direction as well as far as the versions presented. So, okay. Well, do we want to have a bit more discussion, or do we want to go ahead and bring it to a vote here?
I don't need any more discussion.
Yeah. Okay.
I move we submit this way to the City Commission in version 1. And thank you, Mark, for writing all the other versions. They helped us realize that your first version was very good.
Yeah,
Second that.
Okay.
He's
right.
drafting that between watching body cam videos.
Oh.
It's like the commissioner said, that's why we do this, just to make sure that we can get the language that works best and has the most consensus. Okay, it's been moved and supported to go with chapter 3 section, version 1 that has been presented of chapter 3 section 9. It's been, I vote yes. Rob Moore.
Ron George, yes.
Ryan Everett, yes.
Heather Lewis, yes.
Charlene Douglas, yes.
Okay, all right. We have charter language. Moving on, Mark, can you queue up the next proposal, please?
Yes, this one was really easy to draft. Just to remind everybody what potential concern was is that the city charter doesn't specifically state that it can support civic life and appropriate money for a nonprofit. If you look, I'll just scroll through it quickly. This is chapter 2 of the city charter. Most cities have something very similar to this, and it's just a long regurgitation of powers that the city has, whether mandatory under the Home Rule City Act or if they're permissible. So, and there's also a savings provision at the very end that basically says that the charter shall not be held exclusive, but it shall be held to generally allow the city to provide its functions and protect the health, safety, and welfare of the city, of the residents and people who visit. So section 117K.1 of the Home Rule City Act, if you see that red language, that's exactly what it says, that a city charter may provide for the appropriation and allocation of public funds to a public or private nonprofit institution engaged within the city in the provision of civic, artistic, and cultural activities, including but not limited to music, theater, dance, visual arts, literature, letters, architecture, architectural landscaping, line arts, and crafts to the general public. That is specifically and more what the Royal Oak Civic Foundation has been set up to do. So the proposal that I've drafted to present to the electors, you have the title and you have the call of the question. The call of the question is limited to 100 words. The title, ironically, is not. But basically, this proposal, if adopted, amending Chapter 2, Section 1, would make it clear that the city may provide for civic, artistic, and cultural activities and provide public funds in support of these activities to a nonprofit institution as permitted by the State of Michigan Home Rule City Act, Section 117K.1. So shall this proposal be adopted? I'm trying to make it clear and neutral without any potential haze over it that this is some kind of secret plan for the city to do something nefarious. So that's the language, and this proposal would go before the city commission if you approve it, and then with a 5-7 vote, or 5 of at least 7, at least 5 of 7 would go to the governor and the attorney general's office for approval. This has not been sent to the attorney general office yet because it's so straightforward. I don't think they're going to have an issue with it.
Mark?
Yes.
What does the Home Rule City Act say about this? Like, if we don't have this language, what does it say?
I think there's enough in Chapter 2, and also the interim city attorney agrees with me that there's enough in Chapter 2 to allow for the Royal Oak Civic Foundation to continue to operate and to allow the city to support its operations. There's both generalized and very specific language in this chapter, but it's basically a general grant of power. And it all boils down to health, safety, and welfare. If you can describe something as good for the public health, safety, or welfare, the city can do it.
So this is unusual compared to, this is like one of the most unusual ones I've seen since I've been here, because we've typically said, if the Home Rule City Act says you can do it, it's redundant to have it in our charter, so let's work to eliminate redundancy. And it appears to me here that we're creating a redundancy, if I'm following.
We may be creating a redundancy, but because it doesn't specifically say that you may do it, the city attorney and myself believe that it's probably a good idea to put it in. It looks like the Royal Oak Civic Foundation is kind of taking off faster than anyone expected. And if it's going to maintain this rate and it's starting to get its involvement with the residents and the people who come to the city, then it's going to get more scrutiny. And this just takes an issue away.
That's what I was going to hop in.
Tracks.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I was going to hop in on that too, because we've had a lot of prior discussions regarding, different changes that we've made, that we want to make it clear to anyone who doesn't understand exactly how government works or how the home rule works, that, if they go and look at our charter, they'll either see an direct reference to the law that we are, replacing our language with, or have an explanation of what's going on. And I think Mr. Liss is correct in that this is an area that is going to have a lot of people, or a number of people, be suspicious of. And by putting it directly in our charter, I think would benefit everyone. Those reading the charter, everyone involved, and because it isn't a completely, like a legal analysis says we can do this. Does it completely spell it out? Not everyone who's going to read this is a lawyer, so I think it helps to just put it in there, even if there is some concern of redundancy, in my opinion.
If you take a look at the area that I've shaded, it's the last provision in the, the last provision in Chapter 2, General Grant of Powers, there's the savings clause. And no enumeration of particular powers by this chapter shall be held as exclusive or in any wise a limitation on said city to legislate on other subjects, and such powers, and all such powers, whether express or implied, shall be exercised and enforced in manners as provided by ordinance, resolution, or the general laws of the state. So that's the general savings clause that we think would prevent anybody from challenging the work, the city's work, or the work of the Royal Oak Civic Foundation. But having a permissible provision in the general powers clause that comes directly from state law would make that explicit.
Are the people that are in favor of this amendment opposed to the foundation? In other words, to me, if I were, and I don't have a strong opinion, I like the foundation. I think this is a risk for the foundation. There's a current right for the city to do this. It's fairly straightforward. It's already being implemented. And if it goes on the ballot and a number of people rise up against the foundation by voting against this amendment, it would seem that the foundation would be in big trouble.
We don't think so. The city attorney's office's opinion between myself and the city attorney is that last sentence and other provisions in the charter would save it.
So even if it was voted down, we still could have the organization, the nonprofit.
Correct. I mean, the public health officer has been voted down, and we still don't have a public health officer.
But I get that, but I guess I don't understand why ask in the first place. Because the situation would change. It would go from something where now you can read it and say, oh, we have every right to be doing this, to oh, can we do this? Public, no. Okay, well, we thought we could do it anyway, so we're just going to keep doing it. That just seems like a much less, something is wrong with that. Now the electorate would have weighed in specifically on the question in a way that it hasn't before.
That's less a legal determination as opposed to a political determination. I understand that, I've been involved in politics. And I understand there's a lot of political issues that may come from many of these provisions, but it was suggested by the city attorney and Ian McLaughlin, and we did discuss it, and we decided that it would be at least worthwhile to present it to the Charter Review Committee for review and its comments, just like yours.
Thank you.
Mark, may I chime in here? Or Rob, may I chime in here?
Oh, yeah, please.
So reading the first sentence, or the first part of it, may provide for to a public or private nonprofit institution. Does that mean that the city could give money to the to Stagecrafters or the Boys and Girls Club, or I don't know, pick those for example?
Yes, it could.
It could.
Yes.
Okay. Then my other question, and you kind of touched on this a moment ago when you talked about, the city's role in protecting social welfare and public safety. these possible recipients here do not seem to cover social welfare and public safety unless the word civic is the umbrella that covers all other non-music, theater, dance, etc. options.
Civic and social welfare can include a wide variety of things. It can include things like, so that some people don't consider serious, it can consider art or theater performances as part of the social welfare. Parks aren't necessarily mandatory, but they're considered good for the social welfare.
But this clause doesn't mention social welfare or public safety.
No, it doesn't. There are other provisions in the charter that do. For instance, here, and the city may pass ordinances or resolutions that may, excuse me, be deemed expedient or necessary to maintain promote the public peace, public welfare, I'm sorry, good government and welfare of the city in the area I just highlighted.
But may we appropriate and allocate public funds to a private or nonprofit institution doing that? I mean, yes, we could spend money directly on social welfare, but this clause talks about giving money to a public or private nonprofit institution.
Which is, yes, it would. You might want to limit the language here to say that it can only provide that kind of support to the Royal Oak Civic Foundation.
Kind of like that. But others?
If we named them specifically, isn't that going to draw even more attention to it? Kind of like Ron was saying.
Yeah, it would be a political issue.
And in the event that organization ceased to exist, like, or changed what it was, changed in some way.
Yeah.
This language is more broad.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of the foundation, and I'm also of the view, I'm convinced by the portion of the city attorney's view that we don't need this clause to give money to the foundation. And by those two facts, I'm not that convinced that it would be a good idea to put this on a ballot.
Yeah, I kind of share. Is that Ron saying that? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I share the concern only because of the example that I gave, that this isn't just being able to allocate public funds to the foundation that we own. It's about the ability to allocate funds to Henry Ford Health System, Beaumont Hospital. Those are, private nonprofit institutions. I mean, I don't see the city wanting to do that, but this allows the city to, this says the city can do that. And yet, Ron, as you say, the city already can do that.
Yeah. If I were opposed to this, if I were opposed to the foundation, I would want this on the ballot. That's the other way I'll say this.
Okay.
That's pretty Machiavellian.
All right. Mark, you said this was, excuse me, Ms. McLaughlin, you said that this is sort of her recommendation here that we insert this, or?
This was one of her concerns. I wouldn't call it necessarily a recommendation, but, it was decided that we'd bring this forward to the Charter Review Committee for your discussion.
I see.
What if we limited it to just foundations that were owned by the city and took out the public or private nonprofit?
You could do that.
I guess that's, yeah.
Well, if you take out the word nonprofit and say allocation of public funds to a public nonprofit institution, Is the Civic Foundation public?
No, yes, the Civic Foundation is a public institution because it's formed by a public entity.
So what if we took out or none, or private, or private?
You could take out the word private, unless you think the city wants to engage in that, but since I've been here, I've not seen that. But I don't see any reason why you can't. I mean, it's permissive language under the Home Rule City Act. So I think you can limit the language more specifically to where you want.
And just to be clear, I think, I could be wrong, Mark, you can correct me, but a public nonprofit is where the money comes from the public, and private is from like a private, like, like a Ford Foundation or something like that, from a trust or something like that. So there's still a lot of different, public charity doesn't necessarily mean that it's created by a government. It's still I think most charities often fall under public. Is that correct, Mark?
Yes, yes. That is true.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that is true. You're
Okay.
right, absolutely right, Heather.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, there's the whole public test where 50% of your income has to come from, the public. So you are correct.
All right.
I mean, a private nonprofit is like a family foundation.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what, okay.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ron. I thought you had something. I thought I heard something there. All right. So how do we want to proceed here? Do we want to fine tune this and bring this language back to the next meeting, or do we want to just kind of not go forward with this, or where's everyone at with this?
On the fence.
I agree. I'm on the fence. As a government lawyer, I always like things to be more spelled out in general. So I definitely like this being in there. If something was brought to me, a complaint, I could directly quote this. I wouldn't have to say, in my opinion, based upon this, our interpretation, it's right there. So I definitely like it being spelled out, but I can also see the concerns by doing so. And I also see the public versus private, kind of something I'd like to simmer on a little bit as well.
I'd like to just, I'm sorry, ask one more question here, because if I'm reading correctly, aside from what you pointed out in the last paragraph, if I'm reading the summary in the proposal, this is also supported by section 117K.1 of the Michigan Home Rule City Act. So I guess, how specifically does that, I guess another way to ask this is, if Heather were researching this as a government lawyer and she looked at section 117K.1, what would she conclude from that?
If you're quoting directly, I mean, the easiest thing for a lawyer to do is to quote directly from the statute. Then there's absolutely no question. And that language you see in red is an exact quote.
So yeah, that does change because I'm not familiar with that. That is useful.
I mean, I think you've raised a really interesting point here, Heather. It is, I guess it's true that we've said that we'd like the city charter to be plain and clear to a person reading it so they know what the law is, but it's also definitely true that in many cases we've said, well, look, it shouldn't be in the charter because it's in the Home Rule City Act, and why have it in two places? And that's been the motivation for many things. So where it so clearly is already, I mean, I understand in this case, it would be like if someone were opposed to this and they wanted to find reason, what would they do? And you'd say, well, you'd point them to this section of the Home Rule City Act, like, well, there it is right there. We have the right to do it.
No,
Case
I think
closed.
that's a great point. So I mean, yeah, that does, if it's right there in the Home Rule City Act, I guess I don't really understand why we need it.
It's a permissible provision.
Okay.
But yeah,
That would make it, okay, that makes sense.
I mean, historically we have, as far as our work to streamline the charter and make it more amenable and understandable, we typically taken things out. I mean, not recently, but things have been added from time to time. But I certainly understand the argument, like not having duplication and redundancy here. But again, that's why we're having this meeting. Just go ahead and go over these issues. So.
Well, actually, now I'm going to reverse this says we may do it in our charter. So I guess this is slightly different than actually sticking the words in after charter, right? Each city in its charter may provide for it. Now that I'm reading the direct language,
Okay,
right?
Yeah, I mean,
I thought that's how it was at first, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So
missed it.
so that's interesting. It's not like the Home Rule City Act says you can do it. It says you can put it in your charter.
yes.
But that moves me back to the other way.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that makes sense. I mean, that's different than I understood it when I.
This is a permissive provision where it's not where you have to have it if you want to do it. There's no prohibition that says if you want to do this, you got to have this language in your charter.
Okay.
And you
So
might
if
even
we-
say it doesn't say you can do it until you put it in your charter.
Right.
Right.
So that's a little more clear of why now I understand better where you're coming from, Mark, on why.
Yes.
You may want to put it, that it's like the Home Rule City Act doesn't say you can't do it, but it says you may put this into your charter to allow you to do it. So I don't think you would settle the question by reading the Home Rule City Act if you were wanting to
Right.
oppose this or something.
If it's something we want to move forward with, do we want to keep the private wording in there? Or limit it to be just public?
And I do want to just pop on before we go any further. I don't know if everyone saw the chat, but I do think we have to wrap up. Oh, we have to wrap up by 7. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry to
yeah,
interrupt you.
No, that works out because I've got another meeting at 7 o'clock too. So it works out.
Yeah, same here.
Sorry, I didn't read the whole thing. I thought it might have been 6:30, so sorry.
Hey, Shar, aren't you the leader of the foundation, or isn't that kind of your project?
I am a trustee, and I'm one of the reasons that it happened. So yeah.
So
Char,
I'm going to say
Char's
that I'm going to defer to your opinion on this. That's going to be my.
Char's the champion on the Royal Oak Civic Foundation. She singularly brought this to fruition.
So I intend to defer to your opinion on this.
I like the idea of taking the words or public, or I'm sorry, or private out of it. There are people who might read this as something nefarious. And, telling them in the next breath that, well, the state law allows it, may be cold comfort.
Yeah.
So there's a possibility, let's say, well, let's tease this out. Somebody says, how dare that the city support the Civic Foundation, or the Civic Foundation gave money to something that I disagree with. How dare they? What is the city's response? I mean, to me, the city's response is another part of our charter allows us to contribute to the general welfare. Am I right?
Right.
So,
There are some people who don't like plans for a certain park, but
right.
that doesn't mean it's not permissible.
Sorry, I'm inclined to kick it to the city commission. I mean, we ultimately will decide what goes on the ballot. I'm gonna kick that can down the road to them.
Then I'll tell you what probably the city attorney's office might need to do is then put together a memoranda of the issue and the proposed solution. And a couple of different proposals. One would be to specifically eliminate the words nonprofit. Another solution might be to specifically include, specifically name the Royal Oak Foundation, and then send it to the city commission for review.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So, okay, we can go ahead and, as we just discussed, to conclude this with the package sent to the commission with the conditions that Mark just outlined right there in terms of language. Everyone's okay with that? No.
Yeah.
All right.
Do we need so we've got 5 possible sets of language. Do we need motions on all of them now or at our next meeting?
Well, we've already submitted some of them, right, and voted on.
3 of, yeah, you have approved one. You don't necessarily have to approve the language because a lot of this is still going to go. Some of this is you've already approved a lot of the language from that 2020 memoranda.
Okay.
So that you've reapproved proposal version 1 of the mayoral vacancy. You've kept the public health officer. The other miscellaneous provision on changing the assessor's role, we haven't changed. This, you might want to pass memoranda recommending that the city attorney's office send a memoranda to the city commission for review on potentially placing this issue before the electorate. So that would be 4 issues. 3 have already been approved. Language has already been approved, and the Attorney General's office has informally approved 3 of them. So the only one that would require a vote today would be the inclusion of this provision inside Chapter 2 of the city charter, or a version of this inside Chapter 2.
All right. Does anyone have anything else, or anyone care to make a motion at this time, or?
All right, so I will move that. I hope I'm articulating this correctly, and I welcome editing. Move that the proposed revision of Chapter 2, General Powers, Section 1, be submitted to the City Commission for discussion.
I think that
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion on the motion? Right, seeing none, we will go ahead and proceed to vote. I vote yes. Rob Moore,
Ryan Everett, I vote yes.
Heather Lewis, I vote yes.
Ron George, I vote yes.
Charlene Douglas, I vote yes.
all right, motion carries. And if needed, I could certainly make myself available on the agenda that night to discuss if the commission had any questions pursuant to what we were discussing tonight or whatnot.
So then what are we doing on the chapter 3, the pro tem section? Is that we're referring that for language to the AG? Or do we want the
Already-
city commission to kick that around first?
Well, that's all going to be presented in the memo that was on hold from 2020. That's going to be presented to the city commission. The AG's office has already informally reviewed that and okayed it. I'm still going to talk to him again just in case, because things do change over there from time to time.
What, chapter 3?
Yes, a mayoral vacancy. Yeah, that language has already been approved by the, informally approved by the AG's office.
Version 1?
Yes. Version 1 is directly the version that I pulled out of the memoranda from 2020.
Okay, all right. I'll shut
So
up.
that'll be presented to the commission and they can weigh in on it. And if they like it, they can pass it and we're done with it, right? I mean,
They can also modify it and send it to the AG's office.
Yeah, but we have we need to do no further action on that. That should next be brought before the commission.
That's right.
And that's true of 4 of these, right? We have 4.
Yeah, well, there were 3 revisions in the memoranda, I believe.
Okay. I keep losing count of that, but it's possible that except for this this most recent one, the rest of them could be approved by 5 people and then they'd go onto the ballot and we would just be moving into the promotion phase.
That's my
Education phase. I should say education phase.
education.
Yep, words are important.
You have the right as private citizens to promote this. As an employee of the city of Royal Oak, I cannot. Although I'm a resident of Royal Oak, I could probably promote on my private time.
All right. Mark, is that it as far as language that we need to discuss tonight?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, all right. And again, appreciate all the efforts you've done here. Thank you.
And I'll get the next memoranda. There doesn't seem to be anything on the schedule for the next for your next meeting, but I'll get you this information before it goes to the city commission so you can review it.
Okay, thanks, Mark. All right, well, we've got about 15 minutes left. Do we want to go ahead and set a date for next month's meeting?
That sounds good.
Pull up the calendar here. That would let's see. The 4th Tuesday next month would be the, well, let's see, we've got the 20th and we've got the 27th. The 27th work a bit better for me personally, but I'm amenable to other dates.
I've just got that as a permanent placeholder in my calendar.
That works for me.
Yes.
That works for me.
Okay. All right. So why don't we go ahead with Tuesday, April 27th at 5:30 p.m. Electronically via Zoom. So, all right. It's in. Okay. All right. Is there anything further to come before the committee this evening before we adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second,
Okay, it's been moved and supported that we adjourn tonight's meeting. If there's no discussion, we will go ahead and proceed to vote. I vote yes. Rob Moore,
Ron George, yes.
Ryan Everett, yes.
Heather Lewis, yes.
Charlene Douglas, yes.
Thank you, everybody.
all right, thank you. here comes the invisible gavel, and we are adjourned. All
Hey,
right.
Mark,
Yes, ma'am.
before I lose you, remember that email I sent you the other day?
Yeah, then I sent you, did you get my response, or I thought I sent you a response?
Are you guys coming to court tomorrow or no?
Tomorrow is Wednesday.
Yeah, it's at 8:30 Zoom.
We're not scheduled for anything on Wednesday.
Okay. So I think you said you were gonna look into it. I will double check to see if I got something else from you.
Let me pull it up. I'll give you a call right now.
Thank you. Bye.
Mark,
I
Deanna,
had to
thanks
catch
again.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
everyone.
Here.
We'll see you next month.
Yeah.
Bye.